Hello, and thanks for joining us on the podcast that discusses all things gaming. Coming to you from the home of Gen Con and the gaming capital of the world, this is The Established Facts. Hello, everybody, and
Would
welcome.
you stop doing the metronome every time we start this thing? I'm sorry, Don, but I swear I've had multiple times where I've accidentally had the metronome run on this software, and I get crap for it every time. Okay, you can go ahead now, Don.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Established Facts. I am your host, Big Don. We're going to go around the table and introduce everybody on the panel.
This is Princess Katie.
This is Derek.
Rhaegar.
This is Josh.
Dr. Deb.
And Prime.
All right. We are going to get into our discussion topics here in just a moment, but I would like to do something that we haven't done in a while. So I would like to go around the table and quickly just find out what everybody's been playing, new stuff, new games that people have unwrapped and gotten a chance to break out and things like that. Now that the holiday season is over, the new year is over, we get a chance to get into 2013 full force with our gaming. Of course, we will have a couple con statements probably later about some of the future cons that we're going to try and get to. So, Katie, starting with you, what are some of the new games and things that you've been playing lately?
What was the name of the game that we played last week?
Oh, jeez.
Dungeon Quest.
Dungeon Quest. Okay, that's what I thought it was, but I didn't want to, say the wrong name. I got to play that, and that was a lot of fun. I never played that before, and I actually managed to win a game. That was, quite a feat.
She
That's
survived.
remarkable.
No, I didn't cheat. I just, fortuitous circumstances that happened.
Really good
Right.
rolls.
Yeah. Anyways. So I got to play that. That's been pretty cool. I actually just recently, one of the guys that I work with at my job invited me to start playing a Pathfinder game with him and some of the people he knows. So I'll start that up sometime soon. And
I'm sorry to creep you out a little bit with that one.
no, it just I look up and Josh is doing the maniacal, finger thing over there.
Increasing gaming awareness across our city. The Established Facts.
That's right.
Now copyright 2013. Ding! That was my smile.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were just saying ding.
Yes, I leveled up.
Ding.
Sweet.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Welcome to level 2.
That's right.
Oh,
You're only a level 2 commoner.
peasant.
So,
anyways, back to the topic of gaming. So that's pretty much it for tabletop and board gaming. I recently just restarted a save file on my Majora's Mask, Legend of Zelda for N64. Wow. One of my favorite games. I love Majora's Mask. I know it got a lot of flack for being real weird, but I love the fact that it's weird. So other than that, not too much for me.
all right. Deb, how about you?
Well, I've also played the game that Katie mentioned, Dungeon Quest, and I was not so fortunate. I did not win. I died both times. However, it was a lot of fun once we actually figured out all the rules, but that's another story for another day. Anyway, other than that, gaming-wise, I'm in Don's game. He's running 2, actually, so I'm in the veteran game that Don Martyr is running. I want to play Star Wars again, but we got to get our game master to actually run Star Wars.
Well, it's not just the game master; it's getting our group together to be able to play.
I know. I miss it.
I was asking about it the other day.
Yeah, exactly. We're all in Star Wars withdrawal, so
John,
need to play that.
we will get to talking about that if you haven't.
I've already been in contact with him about that.
That's right. He wants to wait till spring, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Boo!
Yeah, he does.
I'm gonna cry.
It's because, look at our February.
It's true.
I don't want to. So,
Right.
okay. Anyway. So it looks like it'll be March, folks, until I get to play Star Wars games. want to get together and do a board game and get together over here where I can play my awesome game, my war game. We were going to do it yesterday, but that didn't work out schedule-wise, so we'll have to keep working on it. And that's where I'm at right now.
Derek.
I've also played Dungeon Quest. I played it twice. Well, 1.25 times. We had to stop in the middle of that second game.
Yeah.
But here's a tip for everybody: when you're playing a game, you should read the instructions.
Yes. It's very helpful.
And follow them, because that makes the game actually balanced, instead of the game always winning.
But the game winning is actually part of the game.
Yeah.
But can
you
we follow
should
the
have a
rules? The
chance.
game should be able to win by the rules.
I
The
thought
game
we
should
broke
not
rules.
cheat.
Well, true. We disregard rules.
No, apparently I do.
That's very true. I've also played a couple, or actually, no, I've played once, but I want to play again. This game called Flames of War at a local gaming store. It's a miniatures game. It's based off of World War II, and it's very it's interesting.
It's a dogfighting game, right?
No, there is aircraft, but it's mainly ground based.
Oh, okay.
So you have a bunch of tanks. So you have to choose like which country you're representing, like Japan or Germany or Norway. I think is one. No, Finland. And I've got an idea for a game that I want to run, a miniatures-based game. I bought 2 mats that have like actual army symbols for like infantry and squad commanders and all that. They're all magnetic, so the board is magnetic, so you can draw with a dry erase marker on it. So I'd like to send one map, so both identical maps, send one with one group and one other with another group, and have one group trying to infiltrate a castle and the other defend it, and have them plan their defense, plan their attacks, and then have them come back together.
It's
And-
like fantasy battleship is what it sounds like to me.
No, that'd be
No.
like fantasy chess
Yeah,
via
Yeah.
email and moderated by DM.
yeah, but I'd like to like put like a board, like a partition between the two. So yeah, it's but you don't like say E4, and you don't say miss. So,
Queen's knight takes king's bishop.
but
That is the one thing I never did quite understand about Battleship is you can't see what the other person. With the advanced technology we have nowadays, you'd have a pretty good idea. Shouldn't it be more of a mischance? No, you miss, or yeah, you hit my bat.
So anyway, that's something that I'd like to try out one time, and I'm obviously in Don's new class game, which is sort of funny, and that's going well, and I'm looking forward to Star Wars being started up again. I want to bring back Chupa.
Yay, he's gonna come back.
He's going to be coming back as a Sith. So
Yes, you heard that right, folks. A Sith Ewok.
Yes, you
Darth Chupa.
Dark Chupa. That's what his name's going to be now. But yeah, there's a bunch going on. So, anyways.
Rhaegar, how about you over there?
I'm currently getting into an Iron Kingdoms campaign, which is loosely based off of the Warhammer universe and the tabletop game War Machine.
Is it Asian, or is that, am I getting that correct?
Privateer Press.
Privateer
produces it.
Press.
No, I mean, is the setting Asian?
Oh, no.
Okay. I thought Iron Kingdom
It's
was
kind of
Asian.
steampunky,
Yeah.
magic-y.
Yay.
It's
Fantasy.
yeah, it's really fun.
Okay.
I don't know much about Iron Kingdoms, but I played War Machine for a while, so
Let's see. There's also PlanetSide 2. Eve is probably been my job away from my job.
Yes, you're always on there, dude. Oh my gosh. He's like the mining director or whatever you are now.
Yeah. With Mike being stuck with work and our illustrious host being busy all the time, I've had to try to step up and organize things. So I've been doing that a lot. And there's also a 8-bit Doom crossover version of Mega Man that I found out about. It's a
What is this?
multiplayer version of Doom where the sprites that you run around with are Mega Man based. There's power-ups that you can pick up from the ground, and then you can run around with bots.
Oh, man.
I want to
pretty
play.
I want to play.
That sounds pretty good. Josh,
Yes. I'm assuming you want to know Mike.
I was just thinking that since you were across the table from me,
That'd be good.
you might be willing to
It's a visual
divulge
reference. Sure.
We'll pretend that we care.
Okay.
on some of the gaming stuff. that
Well,
you-
the Goblin Works Pathfinder online Kickstarter just finished up, and I know the plans for that are to launch it in 2014. But I'm hoping
they're in stretch goals now, aren't they?
no, they're done.
Are they
It's
done?
That $1.09 million, I think
Wow.
they raised. And the coolest thing I saw was they raised like the last $250,000 in 48 hours. There was just a big push behind it. I know quite a few people were jumping at it. So I pledged real early. I will be in hopefully the first round of beta come next year in 2014. But that's a real exciting thing. I can't wait to see all the things that come out of that. They're going to be putting a battle pit or something out around Gen Con time
Like
or
an
whatever.
arena kind of thing?
Yeah, for folks to at least see how the game's going to run from
That's
a
cool.
combat to test the combat out with the Kickstarters and stuff. So that's going to be really cool. Obviously, we mentioned the Pathfinder thing. I finally started Skyrim. I know took them all this long, but I'm super
It's
excited
been out
because
for
the PlayStation 3 is finally releasing all 3 of the updates that have been
DLC
released,
stuff.
the DLC stuff, in February. And anyone that is a PlayStation Network user or whatever, when it comes out, the first week is half off. So
Right.
get on it soon. I think that'll be totally worth it because it's been on 360 for a while and PC for quite a while. But I finally got started, and I really enjoy the game, video game wise. Dungeon Quest, I hope to play that even more. I also picked up Wizards of the Coast, Dungeons and Dragons game Dungeon, the reprint. I'm hoping we can play that here in the near future. I haven't learned the rules yet, but I'm excited about it. And being a Doctor Who fan that I've mentioned before, we also have a friend of ours who has the Doctor Who role-playing game. I know a few of us have said we'd like to at least maybe do a one-shot or couple-game thing of that. I also met a guy at Matrix RPG. His name is Trey. He actually has a Matrix RPG that's available fully for free, and he's been tweeting our podcast out for
Yeah.
quite a
nice.
while.
Thank you.
So there's a shout-out for
like
him.
Matrix, like Neo and
Yeah,
Morpheus. Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Episode 1 or
No, I know that I've seen many times Follow the White Rabbit, and he's actually, obviously for those of us, this is going to release on Friday, but this last Sunday he will be doing I got an invite to a Google Hangout, which I'm not going to be able to make, sadly, but I'll let him know. He's going to be doing some demos and stuff online for people to look into it. So look up at Matrix RPG, and he should have his site on there. That's his Twitter handle. Yes, Derek?
You mentioned the Doctor Who
Yes.
RPG.
Yes.
One of the reasons why people should go to Origins is
Yeah.
that you can playtest those
A lot of those.
games.
Yeah.
Because I remember playtesting a Doctor Who RPG several years ago.
Actually, they're coming out with, if it hasn't already come out with, the companion guide. It's a secondary book to it about
Right.
being a companion for for the Time Lord.
Cool.
So I know that's coming out. And on saying that, Fantasy Flight Games has a new Star Wars RPG
Yeah.
that's out right now, and I know the core rulebook and Game Master's set is going to be coming out over the coming months.
Do you know what
so-
system they're going to be using for that?
It's their own. It's a new system because Fantasy Flight owns the Star Wars.
Yeah,
canon.
but I mean, are they going to? Is it D20 based or is it?
I don't
D6?
know the details right off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'm sure I can figure it out by the time.
If I had
somebody
to
else
guess,
talks,
though,
but-
there's probably going to be a ton of tokens.
Yes, they always have to have
It's
6,000
Fantasy
cards.
Flight. That's
You-
true.
Yeah.
So you'll be spending your first session punching out cards.
That's right.
Yes.
Character development and punching out stuff.
Yes.
I
So,
will
yeah.
say, though, those games are
one more
lots and lots of fun.
One more thing I'd like to give a shout out for is League of Legends. The past tournament just came up recently, and they're getting into Season 3 now.
Okay. You know, as a side note, I ran into some people that were dressed as League of Legends characters at Gen Con last year. And I don't play League of Legends, and their costumes were really good. But then I have to confess, I had to ask them. I was like, "So what are you guys?" Which I mean, to me, when I wear a costume and somebody asks me, I'm like, "Oh well, I'm more than happy to tell them about the game that I'm playing or whatever the character I am." But
What is
they were
League
really
of
nice.
Legends?
What's that?
What is League of Legends?
It's a MMO. Is it free?
It is free. It's more of a. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a Dota style game. Okay, you have heroes on both sides. Typically, it's teams of 5 that kind of charge at each other across the map to blow up the other's nexus. And what happens is every few seconds or so, minions spawn and go down these lanes.
And you can kill the minions and stuff. It's very. If you ever played, in my opinion, if you ever played Warcraft 3,
Yep.
it is very much like Warcraft 3. If you've never played Warcraft 3, definitely play because it's really fun. But if it gives you a kind of a glimpse of how League of Legends is run. It's third person. You can.
Is it like sounds like very tower defensey, like
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's still like faction versus faction, or like your group versus an opponent's group. So it's still arena style, but there's an element of like King of the Hill and stuff like that.
And it's free, so
yeah, and it's free, and you can get I don't know if they actually have paid subscriptions that you can get, but I know that you can buy
cards
that have credit and
yeah.
give you like new skins and weapons and all kinds of really cool stuff, which I think DDO does that too.
So it looks like the new Star Wars system, because I'm actually installing the app, which is apparently available on iOS and Google Android devices.
Nice.
They have their own custom dice.
How much is it?
$4.99.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, that's what that just was.
Okay.
Google Play telling me I just purchased that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Epic.
great! Apparently my
And now your
application makes
phone's
sound.
going. Yeah.
So, my apologies for that, but we'll deal.
That was weird.
But they
I've
apparently
been blessed by the software gods.
you apparently can also use your own polyhedral die, and their
very cool.
each beta copy will include a sticker sheet. So it's out of beta, but
Oh, okay.
the core rulebook is
So
coming out.
So it's in principle.
Yeah,
release.
there's a beginning seat, like a beginner set to kind of get introduced to it, and from what I'm seeing, it's coming out first with just how to basically play bounty hunters, and then the third book that's going to come out later will be playing actual Force and Destiny users. So they're working on Jedi last.
Well, that's good.
So
Yeah.
Because Jedi stink. Just kidding.
so
Oh, they're the hardest to balance.
Yeah.
so I now have the app, and I'll probably be looking around at that.
Yeah, man.
So
Right on.
I'm good.
Prime?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
This time? Oh, sweet.
Right on. Right on.
Let's see. I think this has pretty much been driven into the ground, but newest game that I've played was Dungeon Quest. As far as recently, I've also played Ascension.
It's a good game.
It's a fun game, and I am currently in the process of getting ready to run a something campaign
Pathfinder.
Sounds exciting.
Pathfinder
Pathfinder. Something.
module probably. So it'll be my first time running, so it's probably going to be a module to keep things simple, so I don't have an aneurysm.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm running 2 games simultaneously.
I
Well,
watched you
knowing these
almost have an
guys-
aneurysm.
Well, we all can't be as cool as you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
Knowing
all right.
these guys, you'll get a page and a half in and then throw the book to the.
That's right.
Probably.
Well,
That's right.
that's
so
okay.
read the book thoroughly, so you at least know where the story's going.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Is that it?
That's all I got.
Good Lord.
I'm sorry, I took like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I
Everyone
know.
else took like 20 minutes. My bad. Next
Well,
time I'll learn to talk more. Jeez.
I have. Let's see. I've been kind of playing a little bit of everything. I'm trying to think of something new that I've played. I played Dungeon Quest in October with some friends, which is one of the reasons why Josh bought it. We played with some friends, and we played a bunch of new games. We went out. Josh and Mike, the host, and myself and Prime went out with some other friends, and we just hung out all weekend and played new games and stuff like that. And one of the games was Dungeon Quest. One of the games was Mythic Battles, which is actually a really cool game based off of Greco-Roman gods and demons and stuff like that, and it's kind of cool. Like one side is the general to like the army of the gods, and then the other is like the general to like the army of the Titans or something like that, and you're fighting each other on a battlefield. It's really cool.
I honestly thought you were going with Greco-Roman wrestling.
No.
But one day I do want to play the Luchador RPG, and I will
I have not
eventually.
seen that.
I will eventually get the. I actually have an interview up from Gen Con. I just haven't put it up yet. I haven't recorded. The guys are really cool guys. But speaking of that, if you want to find out about that weekend, listen to episode 34 live from BillCon.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Luce.
So there are games that I am definitely interested in playing that are newer games. Assassin's Creed 3, Halo 4. Those are games I'm still interested in playing. Have not gotten a chance to play yet. As far as newer games that I have played, I kind of just discussed those. I did play Dungeon Quest. Really fun game. I found myself, if you have not played Dungeon Quest, there's about an 80 to 90% death rate in the game. It's you versus the game and every other player versus the game. Very few people can actually win. So it's kind of remarkable that Katie actually won a game that she was in. I found myself, the first time I played it, after I died, rooting for everyone else to die. Because I didn't want to be the only one in the game to die. So I thought it was pretty poetic that the only guy that was close to winning got to the very last tile and got stuck at the very last tile for 2 rounds, and then the dungeon shut on him. So, yeah, very poetic.
That's why I like. Yeah, that's why I like what Josh did when he, the first person to die, basically played the monsters.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, the last time I played, I got to that last tile and found a bottomless pit and failed
No,
my
it
election.
was poison
Oh
fog
no,
or something.
no! It was the Ferox, the stupid Ferox. The
Oh, yeah,
Incredible
the
Hulk
Ferox.
jumped out and beat
Yeah.
the crap out of me. Yeah,
he died
Well,
right in front of the entrance.
It's a lot easier to have somebody else run the monsters too. That way, especially if there's somebody who was in the game and is no longer in the game, because at least you keep your interest in the game and it gives you something to do. So, anyhow, without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into our first of hopefully 2 discussion topics. This was a discussion that was brought up on Fear the Boot for the December 14th episode that they released. And if you have not gotten a chance to listen to that, please listen to that after you've listened to us. And compare the 2 and just let us know how much better we did.
suck it, Chad.
Yeah. But
It's been a while.
I don't
isn't
know
it?
if he was
Yeah.
even on that episode.
No, he wasn't. But
No.
he's the one we got to give grief
Yeah,
to.
Oh,
you
well,
know.
yeah, of
We
course.
give Keith Bird grief on Kicked in the Dice Bags. We give Chad grief
Chad's
on
our
Fear the
guy
Boot.
on
Oh,
Fear
okay,
the Boot.
that's fine.
And
Even
we haven't picked anybody on Postcards from the Dungeon.
That's
'cause I think
Mikey.
there's-
We just give Mikey Mason crap
Oh,
every
well,
time we
yeah, I
see
guess
him.
Yeah,
that's
that's
true.
true.
I forgot that he was a
And so, if any of our listeners want to give Chad crap,
yeah, really.
Fine with that.
You know what's great about giving Mikey Mason crap is he's also on Pros and Cons, and you kind of get a twofer on that one.
Oh, and the Beer Power Time Machine if you are a beer drinker.
Yes.
Oh, see,
I'm a beer drinker.
I need to listen to that one.
It's
I
pretty
haven't
funny.
Okay. Anyhow, it's the title of the discussion is Maintaining Focus. Right. So we've already failed. Squirrel, yeah.
We don't.
But basically,
Next.
for the most part, what we'd like to discuss is just kind of different tactics you can use as either a GM or a player to kind of help keep your party engaged in the game or getting into the game, things like that. Jeremy, go ahead.
So I think you guys already gave an example with your discussion about Dungeon Quest. After somebody has died, give them the role of supporting the job of the DM and taking over the monsters. I think that's an excellent example of how to keep players engaged.
I think you should just beat them.
I would agree with that.
Which one?
Beating them.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I asked.
Wow.
Yeah, I totally did have a different approach on that. But
Yeah, definitely.
Rather hostile.
Well,
Derek and I are on the same page.
We
on
are
this.
totally on the same page because I'm the one that emailed the group about this topic because I was listening. I was like, "Oh my goodness, I have so much to say about that." Because especially in your new class game that we had
Oh my goodness.
that Sunday,
It's like playing Pathfinder with 14 hamsters.
it really is.
It's actually
And there's only like 8 people.
That's
in
a
the
really
game.
great analogy.
Well,
Like,
you
I was
know.
watching you guys like, oh wow, look at that.
Right, exactly. It's like trying
I
to
helped.
corral cats.
They were. The problem is that the group tends to have side conversations,
Yeah.
and the side conversations become the main conversation. So they're not. Their head is not in the game per se, and so the setup. And sorry about the short gaming story I'm about to tell, but.
We actually care about gaming stories.
Okay, that's right. I'm not
Whether our
but-
listeners do or not. That's
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Unlike that
So,
Mikey Mason guy.
Best game ever.
So Ragar's character was coming in as along with mine. His character was stuck in a dungeon cell somewhere in this cave, and so we were going in and we were doing some really good role playing at the beginning, and but we started going through these doors and we weren't finding him, and I, as someone who is both a player and a GM, was like, well, this is really crappy for Ragar. We need to get him in there. So I sort of just, and then they started, the other people in the group just started talking. It was just taking forever for us to get through this first level, and so I was like, you know what, this is really stupid. So I just totally eschewed everything about my character, and I just started opening up doors left and right, running to one door, didn't find him, so I didn't even investigate, just ran to another door. And I was like, I eventually had to pull Don aside. I was like, where is he? He's like, he's downstairs. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it turned into. Was and the funny thing was the first level of the dungeon that I had set up that they were in. Well, I mean, there's 4 rooms in the whole thing, but it was this room had a secret door. We have to investigate everything in the secret door. Oh, look, we found the secret room. We have to investigate everything in the secret room. I'm like, good Lord. How about this? How about I just say, yeah, you found everything, and then just write it on a loot sheet.
Next time, just make a building with 3 rooms.
Yeah.
I'm just
Oh no, that'll just take 5 hours.
One room. One room.
One room to rule them all.
I don't know if you've seen the 10th Kingdom. I'm totally going to go off focus for
Oh,
a minute,
yeah.
but this actually makes sense. The doorway where it's choose one door or the other door you die or whatever, blah, blah, blah. He grabs the frog and throws him down the door and the door blows up. I guess that was the way to go. Same type of thing there.
It's
Yeah.
been forever since I've seen that.
First time I saw it. Good.
Really?
My
saw
wife and I own it.
I saw it a
I
couple
have
weeks
it on
ago.
double VHS.
Oh, I have it on DVD.
Yeah, so do
So
I.
maintaining focus.
Exactly, and our group sometimes has really good. If it's our, and I'm sorry to say this, but I mean our core group actually is pretty good. Like Star Wars, we tend to focus really well. Pathfinder, the core group tends to focus pretty well. Getting started is a little bit of a chaotic mess.
Yeah, but
Now
Half
one
hour late.
one
Yeah.
suggestion that they talked about on Kicked in the Dice. I'm sorry, Fear the Boot. Sorry,
Don't get it mixed up.
right.
Don't get it twisted.
We'll never hear the end of it.
Don't get it twisted, dude. One thing that they recommended on Fear the Boot was obviously our gaming is a social aspect of our lives together as friends and things like that, and so is this podcast, and so it can tend to kind of run off the rails on occasion, and we have to make sure that we can bring it back in and corral it back into where we want to go. But they were suggesting that having an allotted amount of time before a game to just socialize and hang out. Maybe if you do, for the next game session, you have a 4-hour game slot for people to sit down. It starts at 2. Maybe you get together at 12:30, 1 o'clock. You guys kind of do a late lunch, hang out, talk about the fun things that you've done over the last month or so, catch up, and then that way there's less for you to be distracted by once you actually sit down at the table. And I really like that idea because that's probably, as a player, that's probably the hardest thing for me to do is to focus on a game when it's like I really have this cool piece of information that I want to tell everybody, and we just got straight into the gameplay, and it's making me so anxious that I feel like I just have to blurt it out in the middle of the game or something like that. And
Yeah,
that's not really the place for it.
It really isn't, and it drives me up the wall.
Yeah.
It's like two things drive me up the wall. One is punctuality, and it's like when we say that we're going to be there at some time, unless there's some physical limitation, we should be there at that time.
Right.
And ready to go at that time. And then the second is if we're gaming, and then like 20, 30 an hour into it, we're like off and doing our like discussions. It just completely drives me insane. I typically don't express it except for right now to everybody. But
Hello, world.
Hi, world. But yeah, one of the things that they discussed was, or said on Fear the Boot was, if things just start devolving to a certain level, then just stop gaming because it's just not going to happen.
Right.
I actually, because I was observing that, I didn't realize that your character was trying to run through and find me.
That wasn't my character. That was Derek going, "Where is Jeremy?"
I didn't recognize that, but something I did is when Don was putting pieces on the table, I took mine out and put another random die in there. So because he was placing it, I took it out. I knew where I was, but you guys, because you might not have been paying attention, you had the side conversation going. You wouldn't be aware of where I was. So by pulling that out, that added the sense of, okay, we know he's in here because something was going on, but I didn't catch who you were. So there's an aspect of mystery in that.
Yeah, but at that point, I really didn't care.
Well, it got some of the other guys engaged and
okay.
more focused and like, so which one are you? It's like, you're going to have to role play and find out.
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah, Prime, go ahead.
I think on a more broad spectrum, as far as keeping focused, I think it helps if you already have predetermined what kind of a game situation you want, because a lot of people come to games as more of a social network than to actually, stay.
Talk into your mic.
Stay focused on, whatever game they decide to play. Like a lot of people will play a game, and mainly the only reason why they're there is so that they can talk to friends. But they might as well play a game while they're talking to their friends.
Well, we might as well play a board game at that point. I mean,
well, I'm that's why I'm saying keeping the spectrum broad instead of just focusing on something like D&D or a tabletop game. It doesn't. I mean. You know what I mean?
Fear the Boot is a role-playing game podcast. So what they were discussing mostly is maintaining focus during role-playing games. So if we do try and take this about, try and pull ourselves out a little bit in all situations gaming.
Right.
The reality is the same thing applies to board games.
Oh, yeah.
You're there to play a board game. Yes, I agree that it's a socialization. We do the same thing. But you are still trying to play the board game. So
Actually,
take your turn. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've got a perfect example of that. What was that game that we were playing at your birthday party? The board game?
Tomb.
Yes. We were playing Tomb, and we were just, we were going. It's a fast game. Like,
It can
For
be.
the most part,
turns
yeah.
can be pretty fast.
Yeah.
And like Mike was one of the players there, and he would get pulled out.
Oh, yeah.
By another person that was at the event, and he was just chatting, and so we would constantly have to say, "Hey, come back! It's your turn. Hey, come back!
Yeah.
Your turn." Again, another thing that drove me up the wall was like, "Okay, why are you playing this game if you're just going to be out there chatting? Stop. Say you know what, guys? Have a good time, but I'm pulling myself out
Right.
to go
Have
chat
somebody
with them."
sit in where you were.
I think
or-
it's just disrespectful, in my honest opinion, to the other people that are there.
I think that there's a difference in your focus level in a role-playing game and your focus level in a card game, your focus level in a board game. If you're playing a role-playing game, in my opinion, that should be the only thing that you're really focused on. One thing that, and not to pick on anybody at the table, but
That's why you pick on
I'm
people
gonna pick
not
on
at the table.
I'm gonna pick on Katie and Debbie a little bit. But the one thing that probably distracts me as a GM the most is when you sit down to play a game and you're maybe you're on your phone, and even if it's just you're having a casual conversation or anything like that, it doesn't. I wouldn't say that it offends me as much as possibly like Derek might be offended by certain things, but I think that what it does is I try and be very observant for my players, and you can ask most of my players when we get done with a game session. I'm always trying to find input. Hey, how was that game? What did you think? Were there any things that you thought I might be able to do better for the next game? Because it's enjoyable for me to hang out and play and run a game. I want it to be just as enjoyable for you to sit down and actually play the game. And so I want to know that everybody is focused on the game. And so if Josh is on his phone texting somebody, or if Debbie, even if Debbie's doing work for the hospital or something like that, that kind of stuff, I guess, in an extreme situation is understandable.
Oh no, the patient can wait.
But
they're not that important,
right? Yeah. But I think that what that does for me sometimes is it makes me self-conscious. Like maybe the time that I took to prepare my game, it's not as good as I want it to be, and maybe everybody's just distracted because they're not really hardcore into it like I was when I was prepping the game. And I think they kind of talked about that too. Was just
not as much as I was expecting.
Yeah, not as much, but I think someone made the comment about kind of having those devices or being distracted in that way, and so.
Oh yeah, but not talking about from a GM perspective.
Right. Go ahead, Katie.
Go ahead.
Speaking as the constantly distracted person, I mean, I will definitely admit that I'm guilty of constantly being on
Squirrel.
my phone all the time.
Tumble.
Constantly tumbling on Tumblr. Yeah, absolutely. I won't deny it. I'm one of those people that I just fidget constantly. Like, as you can see, I'm sitting here messing with my chapstick that's on the table. Like, I'm constantly doing, like, multiple things at once. So I've never really thought about the fact that it doesn't look like I'm paying attention, because a lot of the time I'm paying attention to both things, but I just can't sit still for the life of me. I can't just focus on one thing. I have to be, like, doing other stuff to keep me busy, or I'll start, like, pulling wires out of stuff and unraveling,
She
the
turns into a
felt on the
3-year-old.
table.
Starting to organize the entire table because I can't handle the fact that your stuff is all in my business. So
Yeah,
I'm
or
gonna
I'll,
start
like,
sorting it,
find a loose thread on something and start, like, pulling at it, or I'm one of those
removing
people that
hairs off of people's clothing.
Yep. Deb gets where I'm coming from.
Prime.
I think, as far as I'm concerned, I lose focus a lot when it comes to playing games. Only in the fact that if it doesn't like directly apply to me, then a lot of times, especially if it's later at night, my mind will start to wander, and I'll just be off in my own little world, la la land, you know. And I don't know. I think as far as
What is wrong with you?
Lots of things.
I'm just ignoring him at this point.
Deb could probably provide you an alphabetical list.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, as far as like role-playing games are concerned, I think a good way to at least keep me focused is not necessarily to make sure that I'm involved in every aspect of the game, but at least make sure that I'm doing something that can be applicable to my character or the situation that's going on, the environment, or something like that. That way I'm not sitting here going, do, when's it going to be my turn to do something?
Go ahead, Deb.
Well, I'm gonna spring off of Josh's comment, because that's actually where I was going to come from, especially in one of the games, two of the games that I've played recently. What will end up happening is, by some crazy thing, the party gets split. I'm off somewhere else. One in particular, I was in a carriage suffering from the almost wonderful things of lycanthropy. So by definition, my character was not with everyone else. And I, as a player, I couldn't really sit here and go, hey, by the way, the whole lycanthropy thing, it's happening. They're playing, they're doing their thing. My character was not involved. If I sit there and I start listening to all the conversation, I will metagame later, because I know what they all did off in La La Land where my character was not at. I'll sit there, I'll listen to it, I'll know it, and then my character's going to jump in and start talking about it. That's not appropriate. So, not until Kayla came along and said, where's your character at? And I went, I'm stuck in a carriage dealing with lycanthropy. She's like, that's an issue. And I was like, yeah, but it's it, whatever. And she's like, how long have you been in the carriage? And I'm like, probably hours at this point. I'm not really sure. And she's like, oh, we need to take care of that. So according to the game, I couldn't do much. I was stuck in a carriage. what do I do at that point? Do I suddenly say, well, I'm feeling better. It was a magical cure. I'm out with you guys now. And so I'm sitting over in the corner doing nothing because, A, I'm going to focus on what Jeremy's doing. I don't know what Jeremy's doing. Character-wise, Fathana doesn't know what you're doing. And so if I find myself too much into it, I will pull information later that is not appropriate for the character to pull. And so, I don't know what to do. So I sit in the corner and knit.
Derek?
And that's perfect. I mean, like, I'm not, as a GM, I'm not annoyed, especially if, like, characters that are not, or players whose characters are not in the current scene are, like, off, like, on their phone or knitting or tumbling or doing whatever, destroying the world.
Don't look at me.
As
I
long
wanted
as
to include everybody.
right, as long as you're back at the table by your turn, it's
Yes.
okay to destroy the world.
Exactly.
Full circle.
It's
Yeah,
full
right.
circle. But yeah, as long as the people that are involved in that scene are actually paying attention to that scene or paying attention to what's going on, that's what's important. And what I found, especially in that last new class game, no one aside from myself was actually had their head in the game, and it was killing me because I know how hard it is to plan for a game. Like Don, I understand how long it takes to plan for a game, and then to have people just completely disregard it and saying, you know what, this isn't interesting me, so I'm going to go and talk. And you know what, and Fear the Boot's correct. Not all games, not all sessions are going to be stellar, but give your GM at least a courtesy of saying, you know what, we're not feeling this right now, and being upfront and honest with them, and instead of just like doing your own thing and just playing along. Go ahead.
Can I add to that also? I'm
Nope.
not going to try and... Oh, okay, well then. Never mind. I'm not adding anything to anything.
Okay, now let's just imagine that his thought doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Okay, anyways, I'm adding to that. There are some people, and I'm thinking of some people I know, there are some personalities that just aren't meant for role-playing games. Like,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but there are just some people that don't have the personality to play a role-playing game and to actually get into the game and to keep from constantly making side comments or constantly, bringing in stuff from outside the game. So, I mean, unfortunately, there are just some people that even if they may be really into it, it may not be that they're not interested in what the GM is doing. It's just that they don't have the type of personality that can handle sitting down and focusing and being in the game and being their character and not, constantly trying to pull out stuff from outside the game.
I'd like to counter this by saying I don't think people have personalities that lend itself to role-playing. I'd say that's true. I think of role-playing very similar to that of acting, but I think it also comes along with training and experience. No offense, Deb, but I think when you first started, you had a lot of issues with metagaming. And obviously you've been able to work on that and come up with a solution that worked for yourself and how to best mitigate that. And so I think it's experience. I think that's a heavy motivator to this.
Does anyone ever teach a total noob the etiquette of role-playing?
No.
I don't think so. I think that it's...
Because I don't really remember ever being taught that.
Right. I think that the problem is sometimes it's different with every group. It's different at every table. Mm-hmm. Half of us could play one way with one set of players, and half of us could play a completely different way with another set of players.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd say we're pretty hardcore about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if a GM at the very beginning or whenever a new player comes in could just spend 3 minutes going, this is how I run, and this is kind of how... I hate to say it, kind of almost sound parental for a little bit. This is how I expect people to be involved. Making that comment, for example, Derek, if your character is not actively involved, I don't mind if you get on your phone. I don't mind if you're doing a craft or whatever. But if you're actively involved in something going on, I want you to be involved. I want you asking questions. I want you talking in character. And I want to keep distractions to a minimum. Even what I just did, what was that, a minute? That may already set the tone for this is what I'm expecting. I'm taking this seriously. Let's all take it seriously.
Yeah.
it might help.
Something else I observed by watching you guys play is commonly when you speak out of character, you'll raise up one of your hands or cross your fingers to notify everybody else that you're speaking out of character.
Yeah, that's an old LARP trick.
Yeah, exactly.
See, it's something that I've never done. I've just always jumped between I'm in character, I'm communicating on a character level, and then I go off into a side conversation. But usually it's just context.
I think as far as running a game is concerned, too, one way to like if you're actually running for a group that's not focused, I would say it's probably better for you to make the plot not as in depth as the people who are focused, because if it's not in depth, then that means that you don't really, you can just leave them in a room for however long and they'll be fine. You know what I mean?
I tell you what, there are a bunch of things we're hearing, all these different options that people can do to try and either keep themselves in focus or to distract themselves in such a way so they're not metagaming, or all these different things. I remember Fear the Boot was the first group that I heard mention this, and we've used it a couple times, and now we've rolled it into our Fiasco games as well. The idea of, if you can see that players they're not in the scene specifically, but they obviously look bored.
When the inevitable happens and the party splits.
Yes.
Don't do
utilizing them as unimportant NPCs is probably one of the most fun ways to continue a game going through. It's one of the most hilarious things in the world. I'll remember our Fiasco gaming story time, our Fiasco game, where the two of us were playing, Katie and myself were playing these old high school friends or whatever, but Micah Short, another friend of ours, was playing a different character, but he wasn't in the scene. So I told him, you know what, just kind of come in the scene because we're at the general store. So every couple minutes he'd come running in, acting like he's going to go buy something, and then run back out. And then come running back in, he's doing this promotion thing or whatever. Eventually, my character ended up punching him because he kept coming in and out. Ultimately, though, that character turned into a actual character in a Weird West game, who then he continued working that out, and he has a black eye because of what happened from there. So it was cool to keep him involved so he's not sitting there listening to us for the next 10 minutes.
I think it's a great idea, but the GM's got to know that, because if you decide that on your own, like, I'm bored out of my skull, I'm going to invent a random NPC, because I would do that, because I'm bored, what am I going to do? And I've done that, and then the GMs think that I'm interfering with the game. And so now I'm getting a look like, hey, mind your own business. So that really sends me into I'm just going to sit play Words with Friends, and I'm not even going to be here anymore.
Well, and I think in that
It
situation...
has to come from the GM.
Right. I was just getting ready to say that. I think that it has to come... The GM has to have an understanding with the players. Look, this is something that is going to be a static rule in my kind of a game. If we're in a situation where, 2 or 3 people in the party are not involved in a specific scene, in a specific situation, even in a specific fight or something like that. If you want to be the environment, or if you want to be an NPC or something like that, then by all means, the nice thing about doing something like that is it at least keeps your characters and your players attuned to what is going on.
It comes with a challenge, though.
Right.
Going back to the aspect of metagaming, if you're a player and you have trouble with that, make sure you're vocal about that.
Absolutely.
By the way, John, how do you become the environment? Is it like I am snow?
Well, no, I mean like
Stray fire or
in
something.
I am the wind.
In a situation where maybe, right, like maybe,
Mouth breather.
as silly as it sounds, maybe if if you're playing in a party, you're playing a high fantasy game, and half of your party goes to travel through these woods to try and track somebody, and you have an agreement with the GM that it's okay for you to play like a character or an NPC or something like that, and all of a sudden a Fae shows up and starts talking to these characters or starts following them around, even if they never say anything, or maybe they start changing their armor into different colors or something like that just for fun. It's. I think that there are definitely ways for you to keep your players focused, but it really just depends on the GM.
Another thing that will help, and I know that Prime is going to dip his toe into the GMing role shortly.
Get ready for the Crocs.
Yes, pretty much. I think that it's important for everybody to at least, even if it's just a module, to experience being a GM.
I agree.
And suffer. I mean, enjoy.
Every bit of it.
It's a learning experience.
It really is.
I don't wanna.
One thing that I wanted to make a point to say was
Y'all are nuts.
definitely in the Pathfinder game that you're talking about, Derek. What I've titled the new class game, and mostly it's just because the people that are in the new class game, I have never gotten the opportunity to run for the most part. So it's a new class of gamer for me. But I had actually sat down and prepped like all of the maps and my outline and stuff like that. And somehow in the course of the couple weeks before the game, I had misplaced or lost those notes. So I think, I'll be honest, part of the reason why it was difficult for me to try and keep focus in the game was that I was not as 100% prepared as I normally am. Because Josh can even tell you, or Prime, either one of them, can tell you, compared to like the first one or two games that I ran for everybody else, those games I had a full layout of, even if it wasn't all spelled out, I had an idea, a direction on where I would like it to go. But this last game that I ran for the new class game, I had like 3 or 4 lines on I was like, okay, I have to at least write high points. Okay, the guy that they're after is in the jail. They're going to be in an old dwarven mine. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, Jeremy's making a character. So now Jeremy's also in the jail. So, all right, now go. Like, that's kind of how it ended up happening on my end. But one thing I would have to say, I totally agree with the idea, even if it's just a module, because most modules are pretty much spelled out from beginning to end on what you need to do. There's very little, if any, prep that you need to have as the GM. You can pretty much just run it straight out of the book, reading everything that's just in box text or italicized for the players. And then what does help is just getting familiarity with the module, sitting down, reading through the module as the GM, and then saying, "Oh, okay, I can understand where this is going. I can do something like this." One thing I was actually going to recommend, something I would love to do, is to have like a become the GM kind of sit down with friends, like people who have experience in running games. Derek, Josh, myself, I think Rhaegar has run a game or two before. And sitting down with some of our other friends who are players who have never run a game or have run only 1 or 2 games, maybe they were very short, and just saying, okay, we're going to be your players. You take an hour or two, come up with your own, like maybe conference together, come up with some main ideas that share, and then we'll sit down and we'll play with you and kind of give you hints and tips on, hey, this is something that you could do that would help you.
Oh,
my goodness, that would be awesome.
I think it would be really cool because kind of like what Debbie said, there's very few times when you sit down and you give etiquette at a table as a GM because you get so many different players.
That'd be so cool.
And one thing that I did when I started running the new class game and I started running the veteran class game was I made it a point, because the stories, I'm running the games most of the time on the same day, about an hour or two apart from each other. And the stories are not the same, but they coincide with each other, at least in the storyline and the timeline. And one thing I told my players was, I don't mind if you want to sit in on the other game. That does not bother me. As long as you are not the distraction at the table, it does not bother me if my other players want to sit in during the other game. However, whatever information is shared during that game and at that game, you are not allowed to use outside of that environment. Because if I find out that you're using information that you heard in the other game that may affect your game, I'm going to be very upset as a GM, because that it is important for me to uphold that integrity of what I have just spent weeks and weeks trying to put out there for you guys, and I know you're going to enjoy. So, I think that there's definitely a good balance that you can come at as the GM, and definitely having a standard of etiquette at the table or rules at the table. So, go ahead, Prime.
Speaking of losing focus, I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, that's all right. Well, you might, go
Something
ahead.
I'd like to add then. One of the aspects of all of this conversation seems to be, to give it a field of study, would fall under something like organizational leadership. It's the aspect of just working together and observation, getting some emotional or physical feedback about body language and whatnot, and being able to read the players as you're progressing through the game. Brian?
Yeah. Getting back to what I was going to say, I think a good way to get players involved too is also I have a friend who likes to do a lot of World of Darkness LARPing type things, and he basically did a session where it was nothing but character speed dating, which basically connects each individual character to someone else in the party by some way, shape, or form. And I think by doing that, you, at the very beginning, become more enveloped into the game because you already have a connection with one or two or maybe three different people that are already at the table next to you. And so you're going to be focused on what's going on.
Something like that, I actually think is a really great idea because I remember for our current Pathfinder game, the veterans class that we're in, was my first time ever meeting any of you guys besides Mike, who I knew from work. And as we're doing our roll-ups and stuff and talking about it, Deb and I started seeing similarities between our characters and decided that, our characters must know each other somehow. And I think that really helped kind of get me into gaming with you guys and getting involved with the group of people and not just being, this random person in a group full of people who have known each other for ages. So I think something like that really helps a lot.
So...
No, I just asking me how long I've been recording.
No, that's fine. I was just making sure. I wanted to see if anybody had anything else they'd like to say.
No, but I do have an additional established fact I'd like to.
Okay, very cool.
Additional, are we doing two then?
No, because I think he's got one.
I do have one. I do have one. Before we get into it, I did say that we'd take a second just to kind of give a shout out. We talked a lot about the Fear of the Boot guys. Come this May, they will be hosting Fear the Con 6. Which I believe at least half, if not most, of our podcast is going to actually try and get to this year, which I am really excited about. I think Derek and Josh and Debbie got to go last year, and I think that we've got at least another 3, if not 4 or 5 people going to try and go again this year.
Raise the roof.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's a really good convention. It's unique. It's a very interesting small convention. I've been to several small conventions on the East Coast and down south, but this is it's
kind of in a niche on its own.
Yeah, it really is. And the pros and cons episode with Dan Rappinger, he said it was really a community convention, and he's right. I mean, it's very much inclusive type of group of people. So if you've never been to a convention and you're just concerned about the type of people that are there, I would say definitely try Fear the Con first at the very least. And
the nice thing about there's a lot of people who get into gaming because of the social aspect of things, and maybe they're not good in big numbers and big crowds, and maybe something like Gen Con or even Origins, even though Origins a little bit smaller than Gen Con in a way. That's a lot of people you're dealing with. So going to small cons like Fear the Con or like Hoosier Con is coming up in Indianapolis in March, and that's another con that we're going to try and get to. It's a free con that they take donations and things to raise money for charity. But those are really nice cons to go to because it's very rare. Fear the Con is probably an exception to this rule because of the Fear the Boot community. But a lot of those cons, they may see 200 people, right. And so it's really nice because you can sit down in a big open gaming area. You can talk to new game developers, and you can sit down and you can play games with people that maybe you've never met that are from your city and make a connection with them. And then, who knows what could happen after that. But it's a lot more intimate setting than walking into Gen Con with, 60,000 people.
Gen Con is not intimate at all.
It's not. There are opportunities for you to become, at least become new friends or fast friends with some of the people in your community.
Actually, yes. Funny enough.
That's how we got Derek here. We got John Pettit the same way.
The publishing group for, what was it?
Oh, Silver Crescent Publishing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I think that there are definitely your opportunities at any con you go to. It's just a lot easier there's a lot less pressure for you to deal with that kind of thing at a smaller con. So I do have an established fact for this week. So on our last show, we established that no matter the year or resolution, the most important established fact that you should always have is to game more. And do you have one, Josh? I'll
do.
go ahead and let you do yours first.
It is incredibly important to maintain focus through all gaming, and I hope you keep that in mind when you squirrel.
Well, you totally stole mine. So, because mine is, regardless of the game or the players involved, to get the most out of your experience, you need squirrel.
Yes.
So yeah, pretty much the same. So those will be
Derek?
they'll be cooperative.
That's all right.
Established. Derek, you have something? One more thing?
No, yeah, I was going to say that
Squirrel.
Squirrel.
Can we just make squirrel the established?
Yeah,
Squirrel
squirrel
is the established fact.
And
Thank you,
Our
Doug.
new fact is squirrel.
yes, it is. And if you guys want to know more about Fear the Con, go to fearthecon.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, just a quick side note before we close the show. Our next episode, probably 5, 6, 7 episodes or so, we are actually going to be starting a new series. We haven't done this in quite some time, since actually near the beginning of our podcasting days. But we are going to be starting a really fun series on character archetypes in gaming. And we will get more into that on our next Established Fact. So thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. This is Josh from the Established Facts. And since we apparently decided that we weren't going to talk about it during this episode, I wanted to make sure and make it a point to announce that Dark Phoenix has won our Villains Tournament 2012. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be putting up a poll pitting the Dark Phoenix versus Mario in our Super Bowl of gaming characters. That's probably just a working title right now, but we'll have an official title when it goes up. So please visit us at theestablishedfacts.com and our Facebook page, facebook.com/theestablishedfacts. You'll also find links to our Google Plus page. And if you'd like to support us financially, go to cafepress.com/castingrobot.